Darjeeling is in West Bengal. That's the part of northeast India that is squeezed between Nepal and Bhutan. Tea is grown on steep slopes in a very mild climate. At around 4,000 feet elevation, Darjeeling never gets too hot or too cold. While my slides advance, I'm going to narrate information I have about tea plantations and the workers. Hopefully you'll come away with a story about the lives led by plantation workers and some information about the tea industry in India. Staying on two separate tea plantations, we arose at dawn, went out with the women pluckers, and ate with the families. The purpose was to document the lives of those who lived on the tea plantations. In the mid-19th century, Britain wanted to break the Chinese monopoly on tea and expand their growing plantations into a global industry. British planters were given vast tracts of land. Finding a stable and willing workforce was crucial to success. In Assam in northeastern India, the British moved a potential workforce from other parts of India. These included Dalits or untouchables from central India and Adivasis or indigenous people. In West Bengal, where Darjeeling lies, the British found another marginalized group to work on the plantations, the Nepalis. To this day, many of the laborers on the tea plantations in Darjeeling are Nepali. A day is long and hard. After a meager breakfast, usually consisting of chapati and dal, women get to the fields early in the morning. Sometimes singing and dancing, they chatter all day. All of the pluckers that I saw were women. Their supervisors are usually men who stand under an umbrella and watch the plucking. Every now and then the men interject a comment into the discussion, but their supervision seems nominal. At the end of the day, the pluckers head downhill to the factory, which is often an hour away. Their baskets weighing 50 to 60 pounds are filled with the tea leaves they have picked that day. The factory, with its corrugated tin roofs and sides, is a sprawling structure most likely left over from the days of the British. Some of the same equipment used in the 1940s still functions after almost 70 years. Because tea plantations are so vast and spread over much inaccessible terrain, the factories are centrally located so that workers, like bees coming back to the hive, don't have more than an hour's walk to get there. The assembly of pluckers at the end of the day is a happy occasion. Even though physically exhausted, the women light up at seeing acquaintances who are plucking in different locations. Gathering in a courtyard outside the factory, the pluckers rest before their leaves are weighed. There are target weights set for each day. If these are not met, workers' pay is deducted. Watching the weighing, one sees all kinds of personalities emerge. There is the flirt who draws attention to herself. There is the cajoler who tries to get more weight added to her daily pluck. And there is the efficient take-it-or-leave-it worker. Laborers in the factory are mostly men. They dry the leaves, sorting them as to quality, sifting the leaves through increasingly smaller mesh. The best quality tea includes the tips, which is 2 leaves and a bud on the plant. The tips usually do not make it through the first mesh screen, which is large. Grades of tea progress down to the lowest tea, which has been swept off the floor. This ends up in tea bags. The British established a strict social hierarchy between the laborer and the staff. These pre-partition structures are still very prevalent today. All the services provided by the plantation reflect one's level of employment. Staff and managers live in better homes, have access to better health care, and their children go to better schools. Living conditions in the homes vary from modern concrete structures to dirt floors and leaky roofs. I stayed with those who were higher ranking. They could access water with a faucet in their homes, not through a shared faucet in the village. Although the plantation owner is supposed to provide adequate sewage disposal, this task is usually left to non-governmental organizations. These NGOs are building latrines in the 2 villages in which I stayed. Simple structures with a bucket. One who plucks leaves usually makes approximately $1.50 for a day's work. These low wages are justified by the corporations that own the plantations. The argument is that the low wages are supplemented by social benefits, which include employer-provided clinics, daycare, housing, schools, etc. Unfortunately, there is little compliance with the Plantations Labor Act of 1951, which is supposed to ensure minimum standards. Paying approximately $1 a month, these children go to a school which was started by the daughter of one of the plantation overseers. Their learning is entirely by rote, and it is really a one-room schoolhouse with approximately 40 children ages 2 to 8 squeezed into a very small space. Meanwhile, their parents are working in some capacity on the plantation. In most cases, both men and women work, which allays the necessity by the plantation owners to meet the standard Indian practice of a needs-based minimum wage. There is disgruntlement but little recourse for the workers. Tea plantations in India now employ more than 1 million permanent workers. That number doubles during the high season, when labor is needed. The tea industry is the largest private sector employer in India and a multi-billion-dollar business. Adulteration of tea is a serious problem. Although Darjeeling only produces 10,000 tons of tea a year, there are apparently 40,000 tons on the market sold as Darjeeling tea. Whether plucking, working in the factory, transporting to auction in nearby Calcutta, or selling to tea companies around the world, it takes many hands to bring that 1 cup of Darjeeling tea to us.